What if overthinking is nothing more than a dysregulated nervous system in disguise? Now, I've made a point of not really planning this video for a very specific reason because, well, who would I be to talk about overthinking if I then over-prepared for a video? You see, most people will tell you that the most important thing that you can do if you're going to create content is to prepare and to plan. But here's what I've come to learn. Why is planning so important? If you know that you're going to do a talk, here's what I've learned invariably, and I've delivered thousands of talks around the country. Today I'm in Plymouth at the time of doing this video. I've just been on stage in front of 100 people, and I did no planning before I got on stage. I wrote 3 or 4 points on a board, and I spoke without thinking for 45 minutes. Now, if you rewind for me 3 years ago, there was no way that I could have done that. I'd have had notes on my phone, I'd have read through my notes, and I would have done everything that I possibly could to ensure that there was a high probability that I was going to say the right thing to the audience. Now, the reason why I had such an obsession with saying the right thing is because my greatest fear in life for most of my adult life has been, what if people don't like me? What if people invalidate me? What if people reject me? And that stems from childhood. You see, for those of you that don't know me, raised on a council estate by my mum in Birmingham, my dad and my mum broke up pretty much before I was born. And as a result of that, what that did to a young boy is his first experience of where you as a child, every single one of us has an innate fear of that we won't be loved and that we will be rejected. It's innate from us since birth. It's a nature thing, less of a nurture thing, is I have grown up with that fear of rejection. I've grown up with well, my dad left, so that probably means I'm not good enough. So then what that did at an unconscious level is it made me ask the question, well, okay, if I'm not good enough, what do I need to do to be good enough? Like I remember years ago, I had a girlfriend, Carly McGregor, and I was a teenager, heartbroken. Carly McGregor broke up with me. Thankfully, I'm married with children now. I'm over it, Carly, I promise. And I remember she broke up with me, and one of the primary reason, she said, Miles, it's because you're not as confident as some of the other boys at college. But what was great about me even back then is I had a curiosity. So after kind of taking my tail between my legs and sulking for a few days, I started to ask myself the question, even at 18, 19, which is, well, how do you get confidence? Can you get more confidence? Is it a thing you've either got or you don't have? Do those boys just have it and I don't? Or is it something that you can get? And then I found myself one day in a Waterstones or a WH Smith's buying a book called The Confidence to Be Yourself by Norman Vincent Peale. And I read that book cover to cover in a week. And it made me realize that I could change what I believe. Now, going back to my original point, I've had a belief for a very long time that when it comes to speaking, that I need to prepare. I need to plan, because if I don't plan, people may hear me speak and they may not like me, and if they don't like me, they may reject me, and that'll be like Carly or my dad or whatever. Worst case scenario. And now what I've come to learn is that feeling, if maybe you can relate, what is actually going on neurologically in the body is the nervous system is dysregulated. Let me explain what that means. When you're calm, when you're relaxed, when you're, I don't know, just watching Netflix by yourself, you're not thinking about whether people will like you or accept you or reject you. She's like, of course not, Miles, I'm watching Netflix, why would I care, right? I'm here by myself, of course I don't care. Because your nervous system is regulated, because you're calm, you're chilled. There's nothing on the line, there's nothing at stake, there's no risk. There's no risk, because you're watching Netflix. But the minute you go out into the world and you put yourself out there, as the saying goes, Now there's a risk, or there's a perceived threat. Saying something I heard many years ago, I think Tony Robbins talks about this. I talk about it a lot, but it's definitely from Robbins where I first heard it, is that we don't know, our brain, million-year-old computer that's in our little head, right, doesn't know the difference between rational fear and irrational fear, right? What does that mean? Well, rational fear is lying in the zoo, you hear a zookeeper shout, run, what do? You run. Irrational fear is you think about speaking on stage. You know, most people's biggest fear is public speaking. I do it for a living. I don't have that as a fear. Not because I'm confident, I've just done it a lot. Right? It's kind of like learning to drive, right? You do something enough and it becomes natural. Nothing's natural, you just do it a lot or you haven't done it. Oh, he looks so natural on the violin. Yeah, because he's probably been playing it since he was in nappies, right? It makes sense? So the point I'm making is, most people's biggest problem when it comes to overthinking is they have a dysregulated nervous system. And what I've come to learn and what I've found over the past year, I've been doing a lot of different things to really work on this, because I became aware that I was like, you know what, I don't like this feeling of caring what people think. You know, you may have heard that saying, I'm sure you all have, I don't care what people think. Generally, it's the people that do that say that, right? I'll never say that, because I do care what people think. Because what people think of me is a bit of a mirror, right? If 10 people think I'm a dickhead, there might be something in that. I might want to pay attention to that. I might want to change some of my behaviors. If my wife thinks I'm a dickhead, I've got a real problem, right? If it's one person that's a total stranger, probably need to check myself and kind of brush it off, right? But the point here I'm making is this. Past couple of years, what I've come to find is you can't think your way out of a dysregulated nervous system. You can't intellectualize your way out of not caring what people think. There's no amount of affirmations on YouTube, right? I'm enough, that's going to make you regulate your central nervous system. There's two key things that I found that really work well for me. One is breath work, and we're breathing all the time, but often we're doing shallow breathing. Right, when you do breathing in a rhythmic fashion, so there's a channel on YouTube, a guy called Sandy, Breathe with Sandy, and there's all different types of rhythms of breath. There's in through the nose, out to the nose, and then there's slow and there's long and there's deep and there's fast. But either way, what happens in the body is, when you're getting more oxygen into the body, into the nervous system, into the brain, it actually calms you down. As weird as it sounds, because you have just demonstrated that, and you might be like, well, that doesn't sound very calming. But think of it like this. If you go for a run and you're feeling anxious, you probably feel less anxious after the run, even though you've revved your body up. So breath work is a really good way to regulate your central nervous system, which will reduce the overthinking. The second thing is meditation. There's a common misconception that meditation, I've heard people say it, and I think I've said it, is that people say, I can't meditate. And I say, how do you know? And they go, because I sit down and I keep thinking. And I go, yeah, that's part of it. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, you're meant to keep thinking. They're like, I thought the whole point was I'm not meant to think. It's like, no, you're gonna think. You're always thinking. But what you're doing is, meditation is what I call, you may want to write this down, thought disassociation. What does that mean? Well, when you meditate, it's like you are now working at Tesco. If you in the UK, working at Tesco, and you're on the checkout, the conveyor belt, right? And you're scanning the items in, and pretend that is your thoughts, right? So I don't know, you've got to worry about cash, right? You scan it, you see it, and you go, oh, worry about cash. You observe that thought about cash, and you scan it and you let it go. What most people are doing is they're thinking about cash and they're going into a worry about cash, which doesn't change the cash situation whatsoever. But when you meditate, you can observe the thought and go, oh, that's interesting. And then after a meditation, if you feel that you need to do something about cash, you can do it more in a regulated state. Right? So meditation is not about not thinking, it's about observing thought. So breath work is really helping to calm the nervous system. Meditation is about observing thought. So for me, what I do to regulate my nervous system is I do both. 1 or 2 times a day I meditate, 3 or 4 times a day I'll do some kind of breath work. Meditation invariably for me is now anything from 30 to 45 minutes, 2 or 3 times a day. I've built up to that. You don't have to do it that long. You can do it for 5-10 minutes, but the longer you sit, the more thoughts will go on the conveyor belt, which means that when you finish the meditation, you're probably in a much calmer state. And then breath work is just a really good thing you can do to just ground yourself and feel calm and peaceful throughout the course of the day. So highly recommend both. By the way, at the time of doing this video, May 23rd, 2026, at the time of doing this video, I'm going to be doing a free 1-day event specifically for male entrepreneurs. And the whole point of this event is really, well, let me put it this way. If you're an entrepreneurial male who has life figured out and life is great and it's amazing and you're succeeding in every single area, then the event probably isn't for you. However, if you're a man who's willing to admit that you haven't got everything figured out, maybe you're succeeding, but you still feel like something's missing, then this event is for you. We're going to be spending the day together. We're going to be doing breath work. We're going to be meditating. We're going to be sat in men's circles. We're going to be talking about what's coming up for us. And we're going to helping to create a massive action plan so that when you leave the event, you've got absolute crystal clear clarity about what you need to do so that you can make sure that you live in a state of wholeness, peace, groundedness, centeredness as you go about your busy life as an entrepreneur and as maybe as a parent, as a father, as a husband, and all that kind of stuff that comes with life as well. So somewhere around the video there might be a link for the event. If there's not, just put a comment in the thread and I'll share with you the link for the page. So that's it for now. Hope you enjoyed the video. Remember, breath work, meditation, best 2 ways to calm your nervous system. That's it for me. See you next time. Peace.